Honorable educators and the audiences of today's opportunity, today I am stating my strong rejection regarding the motion of that in post-conflict states, history textbooks should focus on teaching bottom-up historiography rather than top-down historiography. But before I state my position, I want to be very clear that I am not saying that the stories of ordinary people, the stories of minorities, the stories of families and women are not important. They are important and they are valuable. And no one here is denying that. But in today's motion, it is not about whether those stories are valuable or not, because of course, indeed, they are valuable. Every story matters. But the question that I'm stating here is, are those stories should be the main focus of historical textbook for students? So the main focus of history, the main focus on textbook should be the country itself that is recovering from a conflict. Because when a country has just experienced civil war or probably dictatorship, colonial rule, genocide, or violent political division, the first priority should be rebuilding unity, stability, and a shared sense of national direction. In moments like that, history education should calm all the people and not complicate it further with many diversity that is not really not really valid in histories. And after conflicts, some people are still carrying pain. After a conflict, many people from many communities, they share different conflicts. And if we are focusing on the bottom-up historiography, this means that we are creating a more categories. We are categorizing many people into each and their own of communities. And if we are focusing on that bottom-up historiography, that means we are not really focusing on one main aspect or one main parties of this conflict. And when these emotions of these people are still raw, students and schools, they are very vulnerable of influence. And they are one of the places that the next generation learns how to understand their country. It is the school. And of course, a history textbook is mainly used at a school. So what should textbooks do in this term? So in my personal opinion, textbooks should provide a common starting point. Students need to know the major timeline of what happened, who are involved, what are the agreements that is made, or probably what are the cause, the main trigger of this conflict, and why did it happen, how did it end, and how was the country rebuilt, and how is the country going to recover after that conflict. And this kind of framework, this kind of studies, this kind of aspects are usually learned and comes from a top-down historiography. It does not come from the bottom-up historiography because it is focused on the people, not the government. But in a recovering country, students need one main viewpoint. We don't need to confuse the students with many more viewpoints from other people because we are focusing on the bottom-up historiography. And why does this matter? Because it gives students one shared story to begin with, as I mentioned. And if we instead immediately center textbook on many separate communities, experiences, and then students may only walk away seeing themselves as members of different groups, different individual groups, instead of a member of one recovering nation. And in a fragile country, that can be dangerous because sometimes people need to first remember that despite everything, they are still in the same country. They are still in unity of their respectful country. And next one, textbooks need clarity and not confusion. As I mentioned earlier, that let's be realistic. Many post-conflict countries do not have perfect school systems. Many teachers are still overworked, and many students probably are still handling the trauma they got at home. handling the trauma they got by staying at home and not going anywhere like schools. And so education needs to be clear, structured, and manageable. And how can we achieve this? We can achieve this by the top-down historiography. So the top-down historiography is easier to teach in that setting because it often relies on official records such as peace treaties, election results, and leadership transitions, and public policy. And all of those are archived, not coming from oral stories, they are not coming from personal opinions of the people, but instead they are coming from official records of the government. And bottom up history often depends on oral stories, testimonies, local memories, diaries, and personal experiences. While those sources are also meaningful, but they are also more complex. And different communities may remember the same event in completely different ways. Some accounts may be incomplete, and some may still be shaped by trauma or fear. Now, imagine a teacher standing in front of a classroom where students come from different sides of a past conflict, trying to navigate whose pain is centered and whose version is accepted and whose family history is challenged. And that is not easy. In fact, it is easier to actually share or teach something from one viewpoint, and that is the top-down historiography with the official viewpoint from the government with all the records. And education should help students to recover post-conflict and not confuse students even more with a sense of not belonging in a community because they share a different viewpoint with the stories, with the viewpoint that are shared in this bottom-up historiography. And in a post-conflict stage, leadership opinions, leadership policies are very important. It basically manage the country. It basically decide how a country is going to recover. And students can learn from one viewpoint of this instead of different ones. So what I'm saying is all stories from both sides matter, whether it's from the top down with the government or the bottom up from the regular people. But the regular people should not be the main concern in history textbook because of how diverse the viewpoint can be. And that is my point in this motion. Thank you.